funny enough, his name is Jun, exactly the same as mine, same written. And funny enough, we didn't stage this. We are wearing the same color of shirt today. And if you have watched to another video of mine, the interview I did with Paulina, you will see that we accidentally also are wearing the same shirt. Anyway, that's great. So the reason why
This isn't staged.
No, not at all. So the reason why I invited you here, Jun, to talk on this podcast and YouTube video, and maybe some people of you are seeing this on IGTV or on Facebook. You never know where that stuff goes in the end. I met you online and I saw how high the quality of your content is when it comes to educating around veganism. And I was like, this is good. I want to talk to him. I want to get him in front of my people that are following me. And I want to talk to him about activism. So Jun, first of all, I would love to ask you to just give a brief introduction on who you are.
Sure. First of all, thanks so much for reaching out to me. I really appreciate that. And it's really great to meet you, Jun. It's just so funny. Our names are spelled the same, pronounced the same. It's almost like miracle. But anyways, I'm Jun. I'm a vegan activist. I talk about pretty much everything about veganism and plant-based diet, especially including, of course, animal rights, the environment, and the big ones are climate justice and the public health issues. So speaking of animal rights, I do my activism in a way that extends to our human rights and social justice movements. And those are actually my main motive, because, the way we treat each other, humans, all stems from how we are taught to treat non-human animals. So I'm really addressing the way we as a species view life in general, and really stressing that qualities like intelligence, appearance, group, or ability is not a valid justification for us to exploit or doing whatever we want to others, because these are some of the main reasons some of us choose to use to oppress other human beings over. So this is one of the things I focus on.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is you're also looking at it from a really holistic perspective. So veganism to you, it's not just about the animals. It is, and it is about the planet. It is about environment, and it is about us humans, how we engage with one another, how we build relationships, and how we treat one another on based on our value system. And this is really cool, because this is coming through more and more to as like in this moment that I'm speaking to more of you activists here through these Zoom calls and uploading these podcasts, is that all of you are so aware of the holistic perspective. And that's exactly what I want to talk more about in these podcasts, because I observe how a lot of activists out there are really struggling with like the resistance and, like the judgment that we're facing a lot. Like we know these moments when you're vegan and you're sitting on the dinner table, you're the only vegan, and people start asking you, you're not the one starting the conversation, they are. And then you have to debate again, you have to engage in that again, etc. So what I would love to know from you as well is, when did that happen? Like, when did you start basically coming out as an activist for, let's call it an activist for a better world all over?
Yeah, sure. So I started my activism about a little less than a year ago. But let me start from how I went vegan, because that's really the key. Yeah. So that was about 3 years ago. I just happened to educate myself. I was watching videos and gathering peer-reviewed studies and all that, and I instantly made the connection. But changing my lifestyle wasn't so easy for me, not because of the limitations or the sacrifices, as people say. There really aren't any on a vegan diet, vegan lifestyle, but it was actually the change itself. Like humanity has been always afraid of and resistant to change throughout the histories. And I myself had preconceptions about veganism, like just like non-vegans do. I was part of the society. I guess I am still. So I was really having an internal battle with myself. Like I still remember, like after watching those videos and reading those studies, like standing up and just walking around my room for 20 minutes straight, just thinking about this and being like, shit, I'm vegan now. Like, you know, the information was out there and I couldn't look away, and I knew what had to be done. And, you know, I decided to just be in alignment with my values. So it was actually the change and fear and the resistance to change that initiated and motivated me to start my activism like 2 years later. So to me, this whole vegan activism thing isn't just about, you know, saving the animals, the planet, and humans, but there's something very rewarding about challenging humanity and its mentality and resistance, and that's what I really like about being an activist. So you can say that I'm doing this for fun.
I love that. So I
Yeah.
understand, right? You're saying challenging humanity, but at the same time also challenging yourself, because you just mentioned before, you saw something and it spoke into a value of yours that is not
Yeah.
aligned with your action, right? And
Right.
that's something that I
Right.
speak a lot about as well, because it is a tough cookie to really align all of our values with our actions. First, we got to uncover our values. Like, what do we actually value? Is this okay for us? Is this justice for us? Or is it not? And then bringing that into action. And you said you were like walking around in your room for 20 minutes because you knew, oh, change is coming for me. Like, I see that
Right.
I have to change if I want to live in alignment with my values. So what's more important for me? I want to live in alignment with my values, or I'm just
Yeah.
gonna numb out, close my eyesight forward, just kind of suppress it and keep going.
Yeah.
So you became vegan around 3 years ago, you said, and
Right.
the
Around that time.
around there, okay.
Yeah.
And 1 year ago, you started becoming active. Now, how did you initiate that? Like, where did you start your activism, online or offline? Where did that happen?
I started doing my activism solely on YouTube. It was funny because my focus initially was the plant-based diet side. You know, there's always this veganism as a philosophy, and then there's plant-based diet side. That's, you know, like diet is what, I don't want to say affects, but diet is what's affected the most by this lifestyle. So I was really passionate about cooking. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, like you can see that all my videos that I did for like the first 2 months are all about cooking. And then, you know, I started thinking like I need to be speaking up more for the animals and the planet and humans, because, you know, when I started it, I wasn't really educated much about these topics, and I kept trying to educate myself on those topics, and now I knew more, and
Mhm.
and I decided to, you know, spread the message and help the general public make informed and conscious decisions.
I'll put your YouTube link down in the show notes and in the description, already announcing that. So if you want to go and check out these videos, go and do that. I checked them out. They're really high quality and they're very informative. You're so on point with your content, man. It's really cool.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, meaning that. What I also would love to know, and what I would love to invite you to share with everybody who's listening, is when you started becoming active online, right? And we spoke about resistance before that we receive
Yeah.
as activists. When change comes in, you, first of all, you said, okay, I felt resistant myself towards change, yet I made my decision. So I had to follow through and align myself with the value. Now, we all have faced, like in my case, in my family, I have faced a lot of resistance, and even more in my friendship circles. Like there were moments when I was called an extremist, and where either I or they decided to not hang out with me anymore. And that's great, because it just really showed, okay, we're not meant to be together at this moment, or we're coming back into a friendship. Whatever that was, I have a couple of people now that after these split ups, we came together again, and we meet each other with a new sense of awareness, which is really beautiful.
Yeah.
So I would love to know from you, like, what kind of resistance have you faced from the moment on that you became an activist?
Sure. So I haven't really had any serious struggles with those things. Like, my family has always been supportive, and my friends too. Like, I've had some heated arguments with my friends, but they're all respectful and they're very understanding. So we always get along with each other. But so not on my personal side, but when I'm active on the internet, I do get resistance from anti-vegans and people like that. So it was funny. Like about a few months ago, I made this video talking about whether veganism is a privilege or not, and another one that's titled "Not Everyone Can Go Vegan," and to kind of debunk that statement. So then I started getting so many anti-vegan hate comments on my channel on those videos, and I was wondering why. And I figured that an anti-vegan YouTuber responded to the entire video, and I did watch it. I mean, it was so mentally draining to watch at first. Like, I couldn't take it. Like, it kind of messed with my confidence and all that. But it was okay. The video is just stupid. Like, it doesn't really debunk. It doesn't debunk anything about what I said. So, which boosted my confidence. But yeah,
First,
I
low
do.
confidence, and then boost back up again.
Yeah, I do get those anti-vegan hate comments on my channel at times. So there was a time, like, before I didn't think those would like affect me or bother me. Like, I thought it would be like whatever, but you just never know until you experience it yourself. So yeah, there was a time when they really bothered me and kind of lowered my confidence or whatever. But it's just something. It's one of the things you just need to experience and get used to. Like, the second time, you'll just feel much better, or you'll be able to just not care. So one thing that helps is knowing your values, knowing that you're in alignment with your values. And what really helps is being aware of your moral agency. That's a bit of a philosophical term, but it's the ability that you have to make decisions based on the notion of right and wrong, and to be held accountable for all the suffering you cause and things like that. So what's right and wrong. And what's really powerful is that the world always seeks justice, and the world is only going toward one direction. And look at the world, like, walk on the supermarket aisle, like, the world is going toward only one direction. And I think what I would say to anyone who's struggling with this issue is that when you're active, fighting for justice, like any justice of any kind, if you get like resistance or even hate comments, that means the topic you're talking about are like, your activism has value. Like, yeah,
There's an interest coming through from the other side when they react to it, right? So
right,
that you're speaking into something that they are maybe already thinking about a little bit or something. And that really leads into the next question that I have for you, actually, because now you're speaking into like dealing with the challenge of looking at a mainstream movement, whatever mainstream movement that is, but to say like the mainstream, it goes into one direction and we can observe that, right? We can step out of it, or we can be a part of it, or we can move against it, or we can find a way to move with a humbleness inside of it and help redirect, right?
Right.
And so there are all these facets of doing activism. And what I would love to know from you is, when you're in this state of, okay, like the world is going into one direction and you're falling maybe into a state of, okay, this is feeling a bit hopeless, or like, I'm discouraged. You mentioned the word courage, right? What helps you personally for yourself to come into your creative power again and to be able to create YouTube videos that inspire instead of being boiling inside of this darkness? Like, what helps you to get out of there and to create again?
Sure. I think it all comes down to like being in a state where you're aware of your moral agency and being in alignment with your value. Like, again, I say this all the time. Sorry for repeating, but
It's important.
for example, it is. It is the main factor, I would say. And I do get those hate comments, but almost like 90% of the people who engage on my channel are all supportive, and they all appreciate my work, and I really appreciate their support. For every hate comment I get, I probably get like 20 supportive, very positive comments. Yeah, so that really motivates me to keep making content, keep impacting the world.
What I'm seeing and what I'm hearing as you say this is that the way you put yourself out there and the way you present the information, and I know because I've checked out your YouTube channel, it is quite humble. It is quite informative and loving, and especially also with the cooking videos, that you give direct insights into how to, like, instead of, this is an alternative. And that's something that I notice as well feels way better for us as activists. And I would even say it can have more impact because we reach people on an interest level where they are connected to their values already. So let's say I'm speaking about you shouldn't go to McDonald's because it's bad for everything, right? Then I'm pointing into a deep pain point instead of providing some sort of guidance, some sort of motion where they could also go in an alternative direction with their choices that is most probably more aligned with their values. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think so there's like many ways to communicate better and avoid like heated, like meaningless arguments, like so speaking of dealing with the mainstream mental health issues activists have, like it's better to just avoid it, like in the first place. So I think I do two things to do this. So one is be a better communicator, right? So just like you said, instead of like telling people what to do or telling people what's right and what's wrong, I ask questions. Like this is called the Socratic method, and because people just hate to be told what to do or what's right or wrong. Even if they agree with you 100%, they'll just not feel good when they're like told what to do. So so what I always try to do is I ask them questions. Like when I'm having conversations or debates with non-vegans or anti-vegans or whatever, I ask them questions and they answer my questions. So this way, they truly know what they believe, and they truly know they recognize their own moral agency, what they think is right and wrong. So it's like letting them have a conversation with themselves, and this is really effective because this may lead to realization and change of heart and just change in general. Yeah, and this can be very inspiring.
It can. And what I noticed, because I started shifting the way I do activism as well, which is also influenced as I became a coach and I started guiding people by asking questions. You let them, as you say, you let them speak out their truth, and you just provide the guidance by asking the right questions. And what I observe there is, as you observe it as well, the message comes from within them and they hear themselves speak it out. There's
right.
nothing more powerful than that, right? So I love that you brought that up. I love it. So for everybody out there, you know what? Shall we just play a short role game to see how that could look like, so that people could maybe be inspired in what kind of questions, like all the vegans out there listening now, what kind of questions could they ask? Shall I be the non-vegan and you'll be the vegan for a moment?
Sure, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. So I'm the non-vegan now. Switch role.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so you're vegan, right? So you don't like meat?
I do like meat, actually. I had been eating meat pretty much my entire life since until 3 years ago. So I do like the taste of meat. I do like the texture of meat, and I do love all the sensory pleasure that I get from eating meat, right?
Yeah, me too. I fucking love McDonald's, you know?
Right. But what I want to ask you is taste more valuable than the life of an animal who doesn't want to die?
Well, it depends. I really believe like that the animals are meant here for a reason, and if it's for them to just die so I can eat my burger, I'm cool with that.
Sure. So you say that livestock animals, for example, they are born to be killed for food for humans. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, what other purpose do they have?
Sure. Yeah. So do you think the animals themselves think or wish to be killed for food? Is that their goal? Is that their purpose of life within themselves? Or would they rather choose to be free and live a life free of oppression? Which one do you think would be more accurate?
Well, I'm not sure. Like, I just really love the taste, you know, but like when I think about it, like I think some animals can think, you know, they're smart maybe.
Sure, yeah.
Like now I'm in the role of the thinking one, and that's exactly what I wanted to demonstrate, is that you bring somebody into their thought process, right? So now I'm thinking now. I'm lost.
Sorry. That's okay.
I can hear you.
It's loud outside. Are you hearing this alarm?
Very little, actually.
Siren.
Very little.
Okay. If it's not loud, let's continue this. So you mentioned you compared the intelligence between different animal species, right? Or it could have been human intelligence versus non-human animal intelligence. So using the Socratic method, you ask questions and then they answer, right? And depending on that answer, you pick which question to ask next. So since you mentioned intelligence, you compared intelligence between different animal species. So the next question I would ask is like, is the difference in intelligence justify what we do to others? This is how you lead the conversation. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for playing this example out for me. I put you on the spot like that. We didn't plan that. What would you say if somebody, like as a last question for today, if somebody is like stepping into their power and starting to speak up a bit, but they're maybe a bit inconfident. They maybe don't have all the knowledge yet. Maybe they've had conversations where they were kind of overthrown with, like shame and judgment, and they've turned really small. What would you say to someone who is in that state right now? Like someone who's being let's call it the depressed or the anxious activist?
That is a very good question. I would say that they should watch other people's activism and learn from them, because established activists they're very calm usually, and one thing that they can use as an advantage is that speaking of vegan activism, I feel like I do respect every vegan activism out there, but I do feel like vegan activists are like in their own world. It's like their own community, right? So I feel like long-term vegan activists have, in a sense, forgotten that they used to be the majority of the society. So going back to how I went vegan and what initiated my activism, I always remind myself that I used to have the same, not value, but same way of thinking. Like I used to adapt the same way of thinking as all the non-vegans out there. So it's really about understanding each other, being open-minded, be a better communicator.
I love that as a closing statement, because we bring the foundation of compassion back into it again. And how can we be at peace with our fullness, our whole self-being, if we're judging the shit out of our past behaviors, because they brought us to the place where we are today? So in that sense, really coming back to compassion and also looking at other activists, because as you say, in the realm of vegan activism, there's a lot of people that are getting really like angry and fired up and heated because they're in their own bubble. They only see the vegan world and everything else is being judged. But to get out of that bubble a bit and to like observe what other ways of activism are there. How can I maybe be more humbler? How do I not have to be pissed off all the time as an activist? Because that's really what I see a lot of activists being in a state of, I'm angry, I'm pissed off. And we're advocating for such a beautiful, beautiful thing. We're advocating for something that we would love to see for life, for love, for expansion of consciousness, whatever it is that we're speaking up for. So observing, coming back to your tip, observing how other activists do it and learning from them, which can help you expand your way of activism.
It's also not like, so speaking of like in terms of vegan activism, it's not vegans versus non-vegans. It's, you have to unite. It's about unifying the world. This way you can, inspire others. It's not about like battles.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Jun. I want you to tell us, if somebody wants to know more about you, the YouTube channel is already linked below. Is there any other way, or is your YouTube channel your preferred way to connect with others?
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's Jun Goto V. It's JUNGOTO V. And my YouTube channel is Jun Goto Vegan.
Perfect. I'll link all of that.
Yeah, sure. I upload educational videos. Again, I talk about like everything about veganism and plant-based diet, and I upload all my plant-based recipes. So people have been loving it. So
they're good. I looked at them, and
thank you.
I've trained as a vegan chef myself, focusing on raw food, and I can see the way you it's great. Go and check it out. Really encourage everybody to do that. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
you're welcome. So that was it for today's podcast episode, YouTube video, IGTV, wherever you're watching this. What I really appreciate, and I know Jun appreciates that as well, if you like what's happening here, show us, be active, like hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, show us that you are listening, and share it with your friends.
Share with your fans.
Yeah, right? That's what I love
Yeah.
most, when somebody shares something that touches them
Yeah.
personally, and just spread the word out there if you feel like this is somebody's message for now, or somebody needs to hear this, do that. So that's it from my side. I want to thank you all for listening, and I want to speak one last invitation and then give you the word for a closing sentence or whatever, if you feel like it. Jun, I would love to invite you, as well as everybody who is listening and watching right now, into a free masterclass that I've been working on for a while. It's a 360-degree holistic health experience that allows you to discover an immersion into holistic health practices such as breathwork, movement practices, and meditation, really deep meditation. And I've designed this masterclass really to provide everybody out there with a gift and a small foundation of how can I become more whole from the inside out, so that I can share my voice with love and compassion. So for you, Jun, I will send you the link later on, and I'll also leave that in the show notes. You're warmly welcomed. And I hope to see some of you in that workshop and hear how you liked it.
Sure. I would love it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for the invite.
You're welcome. So any last words that you want to leave us with in this podcast, in this interview?
Let's think. Be compassionate. Be nice. Be logical. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jun, for your time. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.